Not every restaurant's gonna be the best restaurant. Most of the time when you come to Winnipeg, you wanna know like what's the best pizza, what's the top 5, that's where you wanna go. If I'm doing a career, I'm doing it good and I'm gonna try really hard and I'm gonna put my all into it, but that's almost my downfall because I do the same thing with my food page. Right. I couldn't do my food blog, I couldn't do anything. I was working 7 days, like 6 days a week, 12-hour days. I was exhausted. I remember just being so tired, but again, I pushed myself to do it good. I'm doing it good. And so when these restaurants reach out or something does really well and they said like, hey, my restaurant's been booked for 2 weeks thanks to your video, that's the feeling. That's why I'm like, I should keep doing it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Two Fries podcast, aka the #1 podcast in Winnipeg, where we document the rise and stardom of Winnipeg's talent and personalities. If you've ever wondered where to eat in Winnipeg, this episode might be for you, because today we have Antonia Bueti, the face behind Prairie Spoon on Instagram and TikTok. She talks about the Winnipeg food culture as a whole, the best spots to eat, the worst spots to eat, the great experiences, the not so great experiences, her thoughts on Krispy Kreme Winnipeg, and so much more. And she talks about her journey on how she started in this content creation world. As always, if you get any value from this episode, please hit that subscribe button. It gives us a reason to put the city on the map and showcase the talent that we have in our city. And until next time, enjoy the episode. You have immersed our feeds with the Winnipeg food culture. And so first of all, thank you for that.
Of course, it's definitely my pleasure.
If you had to describe your page, so Prairie Spoon is your Instagram page and TikTok and everything that you're running. What is the goal of the page that you have? If you have to describe the page.
So, yeah, it's kind of funny. I guess I could go from the beginning and like how I started. I'm Italian, so my family, me and my dad are like, we are the same person, and we love to eat. We love, as soon as we see a restaurant, we get distracted. We'll be like mid-conversation, we'll be like, oh, like that looks really good, or like that looks really good. So I grew up kind of immersed in, trying different foods. I remember when I was in elementary school, I would get like pretty traditional like Italian food, which was absolutely delicious. Like my mom's such a good cook. And I used to get made fun of like a lot of the time because, I would have like some sort of meat that people weren't familiar with. And, when you're in school, I feel like elementary kids can be so mean.
Oh, they are.
It's like almost like so mean. And I remember like this one girl, I had like a mortadella sandwich. It was like my favorite meat. And this girl was like eating it and she's like, is that like horse meat? Like that's horse meat. It is not horse meat, by the way. And she was like, and I was like, no, it's not. And she like made fun of me and called me like the horse, like, it's like you eat horse. And I was like, literally from that moment, I was traumatized. And then obviously growing up, I was like pretty like timid bringing my food around people, even though it's Italian, like such a common, everyone loves Italian food. Like, do you love pizza? Do you love pasta? But those more traditional stuff. And then, when you get out of your shell, more high school and university is, I actually got my first job out of university. I went to the Asper School of Business at University of Manitoba, and I did a business job in sales. And the sales job took me kind of around Manitoba. And I used to like see all these little mom and pop shops and little restaurants or little ice cream parlors. And I was so hungry. I was always driving around, and sometimes I'd stop on the side of like the road and in places that you don't normally go, like, Morden, Manitoba or something like that, which isn't somewhere you visit, but you'd be like, oh, this is so cute and so quaint. And I'd stop and like you kind of hear the stories of the people, running those businesses and how they started. And I found that so interesting. And since I was doing that so often, I was like, you know what, like, why don't I just start posting about it just for fun? Like, there's no purpose at all. My goal wasn't to grow a following by any means. And it was just really to post what I was eating. And kind of long story short is like when I started, I actually like loved trying, because all these mom and pop shops, a lot of them were like bakeries or those little drive-ins that you see. And a lot of those drive-ins have like ice cream and, like mozzarella sticks or deep fried pickles, and like a lot of times like I would get like those just like snacks on the way, right? So like I was like shooting, like just like talking with my friend, being like, should I start this? Like this would be fun to do. And she's like, yeah. She's like, why don't you like review deep fried pickles or like mozzarella sticks? And I was like, I mean, that could be fun. Like I do like those foods. I don't know if that's deep enough. So it was like, let's call it like pics of pics, like pictures of pickles. And it was like a total joke. Like it was like a joke. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, we started
You thought
like
that through, hey?
yeah, we thought it was hilarious. Like it was gonna be totally satire, but it would be so funny.
Yeah.
It didn't end up doing that. I ended up just doing like, posting where I was eating, and this was kind of, I believe, like at the beginning of COVID, when there was a big eat local movement going on. I was support local, and I was like, well, this is like a great way just to like, highlight the local community and visit some new spots on the way. And instead of going to the same, like, it was almost a way to encourage myself too. Like, don't go to like, when you're driving around for work a lot of times you'd be like, it's so easy to stop at McDonald's or to stop at Starbucks or do all those like things that the easy options. So like this is a way to like maybe stop at the mom and pop shop and encourage myself to like get out of my car and like visit something new. And yeah, so that's kind of like how I started.
I relate to the story of the middle school so much. Growing up in Indian families, like lunch is not a bologna sandwich. It's like usually like curry and rice, for example, right? And you take that to middle school and people are like, oh, that's so smelly. And it kind of does traumatize you as a kid. And it sucks. I hate that because there's so much diversity in all the cultures and their foods, especially Italian. Like Italian food's amazing. So like, did that ever hinder you from sharing your culture, and especially in like food, with your friends in the future, or even like, growing up with, as you're learning and you're trying to share about yourself, right? You're trying to figure out who you are. Did that ever hinder you from growing as an individual?
Yeah, so it was kind of the opposite. I think like in elementary school it did, and I remember being like, I just want to be and like now thinking back to it, it's like, so like I'm like I like who I am, and I like how I'm different. And I remember thinking like, oh, I just want to get peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch. And I want white bread. I don't want like this.
The brown one.
I don't want the brown one. And like my mom used to like bring me hot lunches every day, like absolutely spoiled. Like to have a mom who by the way, she did this until like high school. High school I started getting like, I wasn't even embarrassed anymore. I was like, you eat your bologna sandwich.
Like,
I'm gonna eat my hot pasta my mom got me in a thermos.
Exactly.
But I think like once I was in high school and later on, I like, especially in university, I embraced my culture like a lot more. I didn't want to be like everyone else. I started being like, I like that I'm different. I like my name. I like, my background and my history. And I started finding kind of that affinity to my culture. And now it's funny because every year, I turn more and more, I swear, into my parents, where, I'm so proud to be Italian, and I'm like, I go to like the local Italian spots in the city. Some of my favorite things is like trying really good, like authentic Italian sandwiches. I also, I was really fortunate growing up. My mom is born in Italy, and I used to visit family there every third summer. So I'd spend like 3 months out of the year in Italy. So I'd be trying different foods and culture and visiting my family. And my first language, actually, I grew up speaking Italian. And then obviously living in Winnipeg, all my friends are English. I went to a French immersion school, so I kind of picked up like French and English and all those languages. But I think, I've definitely embraced my culture, especially now, and trying to really, and show that on my food page, really expanding kind of the food I'm showing, not only Italian, but going to different other spots that I might normally not go to. And I've been like getting really good reception on that.
That's amazing.
Were you a picky eater when you were younger?
I don't know, probably not.
No?
No, I feel like, like I've had like my little cousins maybe might be like picky eaters, but I think when you talk about kids being picky eaters, I definitely like wasn't like
you'll eat whatever's
pretty sure I
plate.
love like I don't know how many kids love olives or love like I always tried it. I was always like, you put something in front of me and I didn't really ask questions. I would just start eating it. And it was just like open to trying a lot of different foods, and that's kind of also now, like with my food page, I'm always open to trying different foods. I never like look at a food and be like, ew, like, like of course, like I'll try it. There's a place that I actually wanted to try. It's out by Pinawa, and I go to the lakes, so a lot of times like I explore areas around the lakes, and they have like, has great reviews, and I haven't been there yet, so stay tuned, but they have like kangaroo burgers.
Oh, wow.
And like really interesting food, like crocodile, and I was like, I'd try that. Like, yeah, like what places in Manitoba have like kangaroo and crocodile? Will it be, are the ratings really good on this place? It's like, they absolutely are. I'm like, if they're good, like why would I not try it?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. We had Bite of Winnipeg on the show.
Okay,
Larissa.
yeah.
Unfortunately, we had technical issues, so that didn't end up going out.
Okay,
but she mentioned a very simple thing of like, you'll eat anything.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you're running a food page, you should be able to eat anything.
Yeah, exactly.
I, on the other hand, probably could not run a food page. But yeah, like I went down to Florida last winter, and they had the crocodile thing that you're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
And I did not eat it.
It was not your style.
I looked at it. Fair. I took a look, and I was like, no, I'll pass.
I'm good.
I'll pass. I'll stick to the chicken nuggets.
Yeah,
like,
that's fair. I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard it's kind of like a tougher meat, but like I'm gonna try it at least once.
Yeah, fair.
Maybe it might not be my exact palate, and might not love it. I don't love everything I try, but like I'll try it,
respect,
and I might love it. Who knows? I don't know.
Going from mom and pop shops to when did you actually start realizing that, hey, like I could grow this thing a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You get that initial hit of dopamine. It's like, 20 people like my photo. Great, let's get it to 40 or let's get it to 50, right? When did you realize that this could be something bigger?
Yeah, so I totally didn't start this page, like I said, to like grow a really large following. And I think it was probably like, honestly, last year when I started consistently posting, and I can't really remember the exact post it was, but it did really well. And that one post kind of motivated me to be like, wow, people like my content, like it's valuable. And I started having people reach out to me being like, I really like your recommendations, or I'd have mutual friends that would say like, hey, my friend told me that they really like your page, or it kind of was giving me like I was happy that I was helping people. It wasn't just for me anymore. And then you have your friends reaching out and be like, oh, that's the girl who knows all the places, like reach out to me. And I'm always so happy to like share all my favorite recommendations. And then when I started, I think my challenge was I was in a point in my life where my career, and still I prioritize I have a full-time job, and that's the challenge for me, is balancing my full-time career with doing this. It's really, finding your schedule, finding what works and how to grow, because I really do enjoy posting and enjoy, helping people. And when people, reach out to me, it's more of a boost. It's like, okay, I should keep on this and keep doing this. But yeah, it's kind of just been really motivating to see the amount of people who've, reached out to me and like it. And my partner, he's always like, oh yeah, I'm at work and so said, they see me on your food page all the time. And it's so funny because like, as much as people are like, oh, did they like say they know you in person, or like do people recognize you? It's like, not really to me directly actually, but it's almost to like everyone around me. Like, it's so funny because I'm like, I don't really go out and be like, oh, everyone will recognize me. But I've started showing my face more and more, and I've kind of noticed that like people will recognize me more. But like, yeah, it was like I really enjoy just helping and like showcasing kind of, I did it more for just to highlight these restaurants. And when these restaurants reach out or something does really well and they said like, hey, my restaurant's been booked for 2 weeks thanks to your video. That's that feeling is so much, like, as much as it's great that my friends say like, hey, they like my food page and they get benefit from it, but when those local restaurants, especially in a time where everything is so expensive right now, and it's tough, and that restaurant reaches out and be like, you helped my restaurant so much and you gave them so much recognition, and that's the feeling. That's why I'm like, I should keep doing this.
Keith Leith of Winnipeg,
Do you have can you speak on like the balance between working a full-time job and then also the content creation side? Because content creation is also a full-time job as well. So
it is, and I think it has been a challenge. Like I tell myself, it's like if I wasn't, and I've always been a pretty driven person. Like in my career, I'm like, if I'm doing a career, I'm doing it good, and I'm gonna try really hard, and I'm gonna put my all into it. But that's almost my downfall, because I do the same thing with my food page. Is I want to do it. If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it good. But you need time, right? And there's only so much time in a day, and like there's other priorities. I have a big family that I also want to give my all to. I have my partner that I also want to give my all to. And it's really been definitely motivating to find, like, once my page started, growing and getting into a routine and finding my schedule, I think now where I am in my career, I've finally been really confident in my work, and I've also been confident in, finding, because I understand what I need to do in my career, and now I can understand, okay, what time do I have that I could allocate to my food page on the side. And it's really creating, a schedule that works for you. And is it exhausting? Sometimes, like, as much as I seem like very extroverted, there's, like, I'm sure, like, everyone, even an extrovert, wants to, like, sit at home and watch Netflix sometimes. And I think this week I don't know how many days I don't think I had any days off. Like, I'll work from, like, 8 to 4, and then 8 to 4 I'll have something in the evening, and I love it, but like, I'm like, wow, like, sometimes you just want to relax, and I think it is my, like, passion for doing this, and I'm like, I'm so lucky. Like, as much as you want to complain, it's like, I'm just so lucky to have, like, both of these things going on. And, like, if you asked me, like, 2 years ago if I would have had, like, a food page that's people recognize and does really well, and also a career that you really enjoy and are really passionate about, I would look and be so proud of my, like, future self and who I've become. But it was not in the books, that's for sure.
Balancing the two hats, what does the typical day look like for you in terms of, getting your full-time job and then coming home and working on Prairie Spoon?
So something else that I didn't mention is when I started Prairie Spoon, I also was really into fitness and bodybuilding, and that was it was kind of like choice too, between, it was like, do I start a fitness page, and this was when, like, all these fitness people were, like, blowing up too, or do I start a food page? And I kind of realized it was like, my food page might have more benefit to the local community, and I'm always eating food no matter what. I gotta work out, and, like, I'm gonna eat food, and like, I just ended up going towards that route because I enjoyed it maybe a little bit more.
You didn't do both?
I didn't do both pages, no, but I definitely am still, like, pretty into fitness, and that's still my priority. And people ask, like, how do you eat so much? And, like, and I do, like, I prioritize my enjoying eating out and going out, but I also really do enjoy working out. Like, like, it's a balance of, health and wellness, as well as, like, going out, and you're free to enjoy all the foods that you want to enjoy. Like, and I think now I'm going, like, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. I go to the gym in the mornings right before work. I'll head to the office, work from, 8 to 4, then head home, and we'll look at my I usually use Notion for, like, my content creation schedule, and see, okay, what do I have to make? What's my priorities this week? What do I have to send in? And what can I, go explore? Because I think a lot of it, once you do grow to a certain point, is you start getting a lot of, like, people reaching out for promos, and that my priority was never to, was always to highlight more local businesses and less do it for the money of it. And don't get me wrong, like, I'll take on that, promo if, I see there's a fit in my niche, and I'll do that because I do enjoy going out to eat and trying out, and which costs me money. Like, a lot of people ask, like, is it paid or is it unpaid? It's like, majority is completely unpaid. Like, I just wanted to go out, and I enjoy doing those more because it's like, I just wanted to go out to try this place. Like, that's what, and I don't have feeling like restrictions on, okay, I can't post this. These are the lines they want me to say. This is and I'll do that, like, once in a while, but I think it's really prioritizing, okay, like, if I do have those paid that I took on, okay, I need to have that in for a deadline. What's the date? And you really do have to, you have to find those hours in between. Like, if you have an hour in between your gym session or you're going to work, like, I'll try and squeeze it in there, and I'll try and allocate, like, on Sundays, like, 3 to 4 hours to doing it. But sometimes it takes longer than you thought, and obviously you guys would know the same. And sometimes I think, again, like, I am to a certain point, like, a perfectionist. I want to put my all into things, and maybe I put too much time into making sure this looks a certain way or looks perfect, and then I take more time than really was necessary. So, overall, I enjoy what I do, and I'm able to balance it. But yeah, I'm still finding my way in balancing both. And, like, I tell myself, it's like, yeah, I could you know, if I took less time doing this, I could have so much more time to, you know, focus on my content creation and do that. But I think it is a balance in really creating that schedule that works for you. And right now, I've kind of found my groove that works for me.
So how does the promo side of the food reviewing work? Is it more like a new restaurant reaching out to you and saying, hey, like, we're just opening up a restaurant, like, I want you to come try our food, maybe do a collaboration post or something? How does that work?
Yeah, it totally depends. So and it depends on, you know, who's reaching out. Sometimes it's just a restaurant that's like, hey, you know, come try my food, and, you know, if you're interested, you know, we'll, you know, have this meal for you, and you could do that. And to be honest, those ones, it's like I might prioritize a little more, like, since they just, you know, I have less restrictions on it. Like, they just ask me nicely to come in and try their food, and, like, it's not like if I saw that I would go there anyways, I would definitely go. It's just really, I can't visit everything. Like, sometimes, like, those people reaching out is like how I can prioritize, because it's like, okay, well, I can't visit all the restaurants in Winnipeg. I'm a one-man show here. So I'll be like, okay, yeah, like, you really want me to come. You've reached out. You really see, like, potential in having me on your page. Okay, like, I'll visit and I'll prioritize. You know, and then you'll have kind of the bigger companies who might reach out for, like, not necessarily even food, or, like, I just did an ad for, like, a Winnipeg marketplace called Carrot, and they'll reach out with pretty much a full like, content brief. You'll sign a contract, you'll, you know, set a date, you'll set a payment, you'll be like, you know, negotiate rates, and that's more of a, like, larger, longer thought out process. And those ones are more strict on, like, you know, you've signed a contract, you have to make sure you can meet the deadlines on this. And usually before doing that too, I make sure, like, does it fit my niche, or, you know, is it really worth it? Or, you know, maybe I'll take this on because I have some extra time and it's still Winnipeg based and I could lead like that. But, like, most of my stuff is unpaid. And a lot of times people are like, you know, do you say yes to all? It's like most of even the paid ones, like, if I don't see a fit, I don't say yes to it. Like, and if I don't have time, I can't say yes to it either. And I think, like, yeah, I've turned down, like, quite a bit of, like, paid content. I never really reach out for, like, a lot of, and there's nothing wrong with this either. Like, a lot of influencers will reach out for, you know, companies for free things, or, you know, promotions, and that's great. And if you have more time, like, I just don't have the time, and I rather use the time that I have to showcase, like, the local community.
Yeah, interesting.
What's the reason behind all this? Like, what's your why?
What's my why?
Yeah.
Well, it really is, like, you know, what I said when I was speaking about it. And maybe I started too because I'm like, oh, I could grow, like, this can be fun. And it kind of starts being fun too, like a game. You're like, oh, like, I'm doing good. Like, let's see if I can get, like, I'm sure you guys are like, oh, let's see if I can get to this many followers. And that's just, like, fun for me. That's not the reason. But I think the reason was it kind of grew over time when those restaurants started reaching out to me and being like, hey, you made a difference. Like, hey, this really helped me. And it made me feel good. And, you know, my friends, sometimes, like, my friends are like, oh, we're going to this restaurant because it looks really good on Instagram, like, some of my closest friends, and then they'll be like, and they'll be like, oh, you posted this was you. And I'm like, I laugh. I was like, that, honestly, when your closest friends are, like, using your content and, like, going, it's like, that's so funny, and I love that. But, like, it really is that feeling of, you know, it's not just, like, a hobby for money. Like, I have a career that, you know, I'm happily and well paid for, and I prioritize that. So, like, I don't need the money. Like, I'm good. And I do this for, you know, honestly, maybe it is slightly selfish. Like, I feel good when I help people, right? Like, exactly. I feel good when I could, like, make a difference in the community, and that's really the motivator. So.
Yeah. Are you the go-to friend for food recommendations in your food group?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. My friends are like, oh, where should we go? Should we try somewhere new? You know, and I'll be like, okay, yeah. And sometimes I use them to go try somewhere new. It's like, okay, like, I've wanted to try this place. I don't want to go alone.
Yeah,
like,
come with me.
Who am I taking today? And I'll, like, alternate. And sometimes I don't. It's not that I feel bad at all, but sometimes, like, I don't want to feel like I'm using you guys because I need to go film, you know what I mean? It's like, I use it as, like, a double opportunity. It's like, I haven't seen my friend, come with me. Or, like, you know, I'll be in a paid, like, somebody will, like, have me on a promotion, and like they'll give me a meal and food, and I'm like, I can't eat this all. Like, guys, come join, and plus I need some videographers. So it definitely just works both ways. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
When restaurants reach out, are you semi like obligated to be like, oh, this food, like, because they're gonna prepare a dish for you, right? So is there a drastic difference between what they may prepare for you if they know that it's going to be showcased on your page versus if you're just coming in on like on a whim? Because are they almost trying to like play it up a little bit? Have you seen that?
Not that I've really seen like really them play up maybe their food, but like and I think this goes for like a lot of like content creators, and when you're going, it is like if I haven't gone, especially, it's my first impression. And when I compare it to like when I go unpaid to like paid, the attention's definitely there. And not that like it's significantly different, but like you definitely feel like they go above and beyond because they know they want you to have that experience, like the full experience. And I understand, like sometimes you go to a restaurant, they're really busy, and like you can't prioritize everyone. That's just a normal restaurant experience. And sometimes you go, and when I go though, as they've invited me, I'm prioritized regardless of if the restaurant's busy or not busy. They definitely, like they definitely like put their time into making sure everything's good. You'll have somebody come out and ask multiple times, everything's good, like everything, and like a lot of times like it's great and it makes me feel good. And I don't, like, even when I go unpaid, I never judge if the restaurant's really busy or like the service isn't great. It would just depend. Like, people are like, do you post about places that you don't like, or like you go a lot of places, do you always post? I think that's a question I always get. And the answer is, honestly, if I don't like it, I don't post about it. And again, when I go for these events and people invite me, a lot of times like they do go above and beyond with the service. And I'll highlight the best parts about, the meal. And and not every restaurant's going to be the best meal that you had. But if these people are putting like their heart and soul into it, there's always like things that like, it was, you learned about the restaurant, you learned about the people, the food was still great. It was just, a different experience.
Is there an obligation for like say promotions to be like, oh, best food in Winnipeg, like
we've done
come to this restaurant? Like.
Yeah. So, if it's like a lot of times like people invite you to their restaurant for the food and they say, we'll serve you. But there's essentially a lot of times I'm like, there's no contract. Like, I'm pretty clear that like, hey, if I'm there, I'll come see what I love about the restaurant. And again, I wouldn't have gone if I didn't see the potential, like I hadn't already wanted to go, or something about that restaurant interested me. So I saw the fit. That's why I went. So a lot of times I would post to highlight that, just to highlight, the parts that I enjoyed. But honestly, if I didn't like enjoy the restaurant, I would maybe post like, and I've never had that experience. That's why it's hard for me to say. Like, I've never had an experience where I've went and somebody's invited me and I've been like, no, I can't. Like, this is a horrible experience. So, I haven't really necessarily had like, and I've never felt obligated to post like, hey, this is the best restaurant. Like, if it is, it's like, I'll highlight like the good things that I liked about it. Because not every restaurant's going to be the best restaurant. There's like, a handful of like restaurants that I'm like, okay, these are really good. And a lot of other restaurants, there's something unique about them that I really liked. Whether it's the food or the location or, the people inside or the history. So there's always something unique just to highlight about it, regardless if it's the best restaurant you've been to in your life, right?
When I say the best restaurant in Winnipeg, what comes to mind?
I love that. It's so funny. I went to like an event yesterday, or maybe it was 2 days ago now, at Thermia, and it was like my least favorite question to get asked is when people ask me like, what's your favorite restaurant? And it's not that it's my least favorite restaurant. It's just like, I don't. There's a lot of like, good restaurants, and like it's hard. Like, a lot of people like will be like, what's your favorite restaurant? But it's like, like Italian, like
my
style.
House,
my mom. I was like, oh, Italian, that's tough. Like, my mom's kitchen. Like, I really can't compare to that. But people will be like, hey, where do you want to go for drinks in the exchange district? Well, oh, this is like a really cool place to go for drinks. Or like, you know, you want something like a romantic date night, or like I'll give you like my top 4 like romantic date nights. So it's totally like categorized. Like there is like a few restaurants like you know, I guess I enjoy personally because maybe it's a little bit like closer to my house and the food is still really good and it's easy, because it totally depends on your mood. Sometimes you're just like, I just want a burger. Yeah. Like, yeah, I just want a good burger. And sometimes you're like, okay, like I want like maybe a more higher class, like, you know, fine dining experience. So it's totally different, but I wouldn't say like, one of my favorite burgers is from Cedar and Main and Oak Bank. Is that a fine dining experience? Not really. Like, no.
It's so good.
But it's so good. So it's like, you know, you ask me my favorite restaurant, like, or like I really love Passero for Italian food, but it's like, for me, that's non-traditional Italian food, where it's like more like fine dining. Gotcha. But they're different. Like I like them both, really like some of my top restaurants, but they're not the same category, right?
Mm-hmm. It's funny you mentioned Cedar and Main. I literally work like 2 minutes
away
from
really?
it.
Yeah,
we go there all the time for lunch.
Yeah.
What's your go-to there?
Definitely the Boss Burger.
Boss Burger?
Yeah, nice. The Boss Burger. Yeah, my boyfriend loves the Fat Boy, but it is good.
If you had like, I want to say like the best, like if let's just go to Italian food, right? What's your go-to spot in Winnipeg for Italian food, other than your mom's kitchen?
Yes, it is hard. I think like Passero, I like the new Osborne location is really good. Well, Hearth is right across the street from my house. Right. And I do really enjoy the food at Hearth. But if you're looking at like non-traditional, like where I want for a good sandwich, Vincenzo's just opened up, Vincenzo's Mercato. Actually, yesterday I might have had like one of the best paninos I've ever had in Winnipeg at Vincenzo's Mercato. Okay. It was absolutely delicious. Another place, it's a very, like, my grandfather used to go here growing up. It used to be the Italian old school place, and it's called XQ's. You wouldn't think, but the guys in there are, like, straight from Italy, and the place isn't, like, you know, they'll have, like, some concerts on Friday night, but it's, like, not, like, a big, like, let's bring all my friends for like a fine dining experience, but it's traditional Italian, and they make the best cappuccinos in the city, and the food is incredible. But sometimes like my friends ask me like, yo, where should we go for Italian food? It might not be the first place I recommend because just kind of the location and like kind of but it's the food is just so good. So if my friends are with me and they want good Italian food, like I'm taking you. But yeah, Vincenzo's Mercato is just opened up recently, and it's fantastic. Yeah.
I do have to ask this question. Yeah. Coming from the Italian culture. Yeah. What's your thoughts on pineapple on pizza?
You know what? I don't like. For me, I'm Italian, but I'm born here. I've had pineapple on pizza. I don't hate it. If I went to Italy, I would probably, they wouldn't even have that for me to order. I would never order it. So my favorite pizza in Italy is actually like potato pizza. And it doesn't have like red sauce or anything. It's like olive oil, salt, and potatoes. And my aunt in Italy, she just makes the best potato pizza. And it's homemade and wood-fired, and it's so good. But yet, when you think, it's almost like Italians come here and they'll try our pizza, and it's not pizza to them. It's like totally it's hard even calling that pizza. It's like, yeah, I like this bread with cheese on it. Like, yeah sure. But, and I actually don't mind pineapple on pizza, but like, you know, our version of pineapple, I guess, on pizza.
Have you gotten to travel to other places with the food world, especially like if we're talking about pizza, like New York and like the Connecticut, those areas are known for the pizza capitals and like the culture of pizza. Yeah. Have you gotten to try any of those places?
Yeah. So, my sister, she actually lived in Connecticut last year. She's a dentist, and she was doing dental school. So I went down there and went to New York and had my first New York pizza experience. And, you know, I feel like when I look at places or think of places that like I love and I feel like an affinity to, it would be like places on the East Coast, like New York. It's just so much closer, like so many, you know, like so much closer to my culture, so much pizza. A lot of like Italians immigrated there, and so I just love it. There's so much to do in New York. I could definitely see myself there. I was like, when my sister moved back, I was like, you stay there like a couple more years. Don't worry, I'll come down. Like I'll move to you. You stay there. We could go. We could start. But like now she loves it too. We definitely like make another trip soon. I've been to Chicago a few times. I don't like the deep dish pizza. I can't get on. I just like, I had it last year again, and I've gone to like some of their most like famous places for those deep dish pizzas, and maybe I think it's like like some people like it, some people hate it. I just haven't been able to get on that train. Another thing is I live in Winnipeg, but a lot of my work is actually in British Columbia. So when I'm there, I try a lot of different restaurants and top-rated spots, and I'm there a lot of times for work alone, so I have a lot more time to just like explore. Like I'm not like at home after work and like I'm driving around, let's try something else, and it's a great opportunity to just try out foods that you don't normally have in Winnipeg.
As much as there's a positive light to social media, there's always that negative, right? And so how do you balance the negative side for coming to food reviews? Like people probably like, oh, what does she know about food, right? How do you deal with that?
So I feel like I've grown, I feel like when I first started, I never posted like my face. Because I was always scared that like people would like know who I am and like judge me and it's still like it's always like people are like and even myself it wasn't that long ago when people are like how like you're just thinking about being judged, and I still think about that. It doesn't just go away, like it's just a normal feeling that you have, but you start like the feeling of doing good kind of overshadows the feeling of those people who like, it's just so easy to hide behind a screen and like comment something, and like most of the time the comments are dumb. Like I'm like, what is like this doesn't even make any sense. Like I'll like delete it. Like this doesn't make any sense either, or it's not relevant, or like whatever. It's like okay, like I don't care.
What's a comment that like stuck one?
We all have one.
I'm gonna have to think about that. Honestly, like I think I had a recent person who said like my voice is really annoying. I was like, honestly, fair. Like, and like that's probably like, you know what? Maybe I talk too fast in some videos, and like, you're trying to like emphasize how good it is, and totally. Like there's so many food content creators when you're describing food, you're like trying to describe it, and you're like, what's the best way to describe this? And sure. Like, honestly. But I was like, oh, I never thought it was like that annoying. But like, sorry, like
self-conscious.
Spider-Man 123, like
user 0057.
Yeah, like unknown user. Like, thanks for letting that one stick. But mostly, like, it's honestly, I haven't had anything that's like really affected me, which is kind of like I think I used to think that getting these comments would affect me more than they actually ended up doing. So that kind of is even like another motivator. Be like, okay, it's not that bad. Like, I like what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep posting. I find TikTok's more savage than Instagram. TikTok is just much more like the TikTok trolls are going off versus the Instagram. I think Instagram, it's usually people's actual account. They have their names behind. They can't hide behind a screen. So it's usually, more tame, I find, on Instagram. And that's usually like where I post the majority of my content.
Right.
Probably less middle schoolers.
True. Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, and these people making fun of you, it's like you just know, like it's not. They're not like. I guarantee, like you know what I mean. Like they are posting about you and like hiding behind a screen. It's like they have their own things that they're concerned about and they're insecure about as well, and that's why they're just kind of like putting that on someone else, and that's their problem, not mine.
Are there certain trends that you've picked up in terms of how to especially coming in like the food world, I feel like it's completely own its industry, right?
Yeah.
And so I reckon there's probably a special algorithm that you tap into. Is there a certain thing like that where it's certain trends that like, hey, if I show like the cheese pull of the pizza really well, it's gonna do insane on TikTok.
Totally. So I think it's taken me some time to figure it out. But a lot of times, like, it's definitely being authentic. And by authentic too, I mean, like, there'll be different things that I do now that I know, like, having a hook right at the beginning, and you know, instead of like showing or panning the inside of the restaurant or panning the outside, sometimes I'll show the food first. So like you'll have a hook, and you'll say, hey Winnipeg, like this is the newest experience, you know, and it was the newest food experience, and you're not going to want to miss this, and you'll show something that's really cool right at the beginning, and that will catch them in, and then you'll tell your story afterwards. And I found having that hook at the beginning is kind of really pushes it to the algorithm. The algorithm changes like all the time. And it's like, okay, what works, what doesn't work. Before I was like, I had a certain way, and then you kind of start branching out, trying other things, what works and what doesn't. And then, you know, if something does work, it's like, oh, people like that. A lot of people, and what takes a lot of time, and what I have on my list is people love certain lists, like top 5 spots, or you know, guest pizza spots in Winnipeg, and those take a lot of time, because a lot of time, like, I haven't been in maybe a year, and I have to go back and find the content from last year and then bring it back and try and make like a collab. But people love lists, like best things to do this weekend, and that's like a really fast way to grow. A lot of times it's hard, because usually you go to a restaurant, you'll highlight that one restaurant that you just would have been out to, but people, when you give them value, that's what people want, right? They want it most of the time. When you come to Winnipeg, you want to know, like, what's the best pizza, what's the top 5, that's where you want to go. So when you have to like scroll and filter through so many different food stuff, it might not give as much value. So I find those lists, which are very time consuming to make, and I really do want to make more, are like very valuable.
For sure.
What's the balance between going to like restaurants versus like bakeries versus like small snacks here and there? How do you, what do you prioritize? What do you enjoy doing more? And what's the content side? What performs better? Is there a specific?
So I do find how I gather content is you make everything into content. Like you go to a coffee shop in the morning, and maybe I decide to branch out. I was like, okay, this will be a video, or at least I've been, and I could add it to a list that I want to make. Usually it's restaurants, at least for my page. I'm not like some people will have like coffee pages, and I'm sure that's their niche. And my niche is Winnipeg food. So Winnipeg food does really well for me. Also kind of branching into events, cool things, something new, exciting, people might not know about. That's usually what I know will do well. And I usually know when it's going to do well. Like, there's been a few times where I'm like, oh, that's going to do really well, and it doesn't. It's usually something that's like new, something that I feel like not many people might know about yet. And people will find value from it. And I was like, oh, this is going to do really good. And I know it. And a lot of times there's content that, you know, it's not as exciting, and I know that, but I'm like, hey, like it's something easy. People might still find value out of it. It's a good way to highlight the business, even though I know, you know, it's been around for a while, and like it's pretty popular. And there's also some times where like I go to a really popular spot that's everyone knows about, and then it does really, really well. And I'm like, okay, well maybe people are just like, you know, sharing it because they all really like it, and they see that like they're passionate about this spot, and that's great. But I'd say the majority is something that's like new and exciting and different for Winnipeg, and people are like, oh, that's cool, right?
Would you say there's a memorable moment for you in terms of like experience that you've gotten throughout your page? Like, is there one story that stands out the most for you?
Like by memorable moment, you mean like in a restaurant?
Yeah, like an experience in general. Like, is there a, you know, for example, like you got this special opportunity to, like, I don't know, travel the world with this,
I wish. Yeah, one day I'll work towards having that. Like I feel like it totally, there's been like quite a few instances where I've been kind of growing recently, and I've gotten kind of like a really great experience to even meet other creators in the industry, and kind of get out of my comfort zone. Like, I think on Thursday I went to a 7-course like dining experience at Thermia, I don't know what, but
whatever you pronounce it.
It was, and the experience was absolutely wonderful. Like, they had you know, so many other local creators there, and the table was made by a local business out of like Winnipeg recycled trees. And they had this 7-course dining experience that was prepared by the Thermia chef, and he was so passionate about it, and he was telling you how he came up with these like creative meals and dishes. And I was like, you know, meeting all these creators, and this was just like a couple of days ago, and I was like, wow, like this is like an amazing experience where, you know, I could just sit here and, you know, get to know how everyone else kind of got started too. And also like this chef was sharing his passion with us, which I found, super interesting to listen to. And it was just like, wow, this is like an out of body experience. We were like, in the spa, and then they had like a guided meditation before our meal, and I was like, how am I going to eat again? I'm going to have to meditate like before every meal now. Like, is this for real?
That's crazy. Wow.
How do you figure out like the value when you're reviewing these places? Are you looking just at food, or are you looking at, oh, they're playing this kind of music, or yes, there is a guided meditation before the meal? How does that play a role into like your almost rating, or like the way that you talk about a place?
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes I won't necessarily like go for the food. Like there's a cool spot, a lot of people know about it. It's called the Basement, Winnipeg, which it looks like it's almost like a speakeasy. It's like hidden behind a back door, and like it's got a cool like speakeasy vibe in there. It's like dark, and they have comedy shows, and like and the food's good and the drinks are good, but I'd say that experience overshines kind of the food and the drinks, because it's just such a different kind of, you might have these places in New York and a lot of those bigger cities, but Winnipeg doesn't have too many of them. So, showcasing kind of, there's some things that I showcase that food might not be the highlight. It might be like the restaurant itself or
the vibes.
The vibes. Yeah.
Do you have a rating scale?
Like a rating scale on like restaurants?
Yeah, so for example, like if we go and review a burger, right? How would you, like, is there a rate of like, okay, 5 is like mediocre, and then 5.5 is like, okay, we're getting somewhere. Is there a rate that or scale that you use?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think overall for all food's different, so I don't like rate, like burgers versus pizza versus like, I feel like there is certain burgers that like I love burgers, so I eat out burgers a lot, and that's just like maybe a preference that like I will like, okay, how do I rate this burger? It's like I love like a potato bun or a brioche bun, so automatically it's like, okay, you're up. Like is the meat really really juicy? Is it like really tender? And I kind of like rate it by like, even if it's not necessarily like, I've had fancier burgers that have been kind of dry, versus like I really do enjoy the non-such burger. It's like more gourmet, but it's like small, but it has so much flavor. So I'd say like, not necessarily, but like, when everything kind of just comes together, that's more my style, and you have a little unique twist on it too. Cool. And
What's your take on smash burgers?
I do love smash burgers.
Okay,
I love a good smash burger. I had one in Toronto maybe a couple weeks ago. It's called From Rosie's Burgers. It was up there. Like, we don't have too many like smash burgers in Winnipeg. If you have any recommendations, please let me know. I'm always looking for a good smash burger. And I kind of have my burger spots here, but like I had one in Toronto, and it was incredible. And I still think about that one. It's like, oh, that's gonna be hard to top. I wish it wasn't in Toronto.
Nice. Krispy Kreme Winnipeg.
Oh yeah,
What are your
Krispy
thoughts?
Kreme. Okay, so when I was probably in grade 7, my cousin, she was in school in South Carolina. You're gonna ask where I'm going with this, but it'll make sense.
Trust process.
So was from Winnipeg, and she moved to South Carolina. She's like, Tonia, like, you need, and this is years before, she's like, Tonia, my favorite thing is like, you need to try Krispy Kreme. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. She's like, but you need to get it at 5 a.m. when it's hot. And I was like, oh, okay, like, I'm not gonna do that. But she's like, no, so she went and woke me up. I think it was 6 in the morning. She like poked on my shoulder. I'm like sleeping, and she's like, I got you Krispy Kreme. And she came with like a bucket of ice cream and these hot Krispy Kreme donuts. And that moment was life changing. Like, those Krispy Kreme hot, like those, just the regular ones. And it was like I don't know what it was, maybe grade 7. I think it was grade 7. Okay. And then I was like, I don't know if any donuts, because it was just like fresh out the oven. It literally melted in my mouth. I'm like, she's right. These are incredible. And it's so funny. We went, it was probably it was first year university, like 5-6 years ago. And me and my friends went to Florida, and I was like, you guys, I don't care what we do. We go to Disney, we have fun. We're going to Krispy Kreme. We're going to I put on the hat, was ready. I took all my friends to Krispy Kreme. I said, we're getting it, locked in. We go get the regular donuts. We go get those donuts. And literally, I made them all try. I said, try it. We'll sit here and try it. And I made them all try it. and everyone was like, okay, these are so good. Yeah. When it came to Winnipeg, okay, now we're talking. Now it's a slightly different story here. So we came to Winnipeg.
You're gonna set the bar for me. I haven't tried it in Winnipeg yet.
Yeah. So we came to Winnipeg, and you might be like surprised what I say here is, I was like, when it opened, it was just like, you saw it. It's like the biggest thing in all of Winnipeg. Crazy. It was absolutely crazy, and it's not really like, it is a chain, and I've had it a few times now. So I was like, I'm not waiting 6 hours. Like I'm not waiting 6 hours. I don't like every other food content creator is gonna post about this. I don't need to post my like it doesn't matter. Yeah. Everyone knows Krispy Kreme is there. I'm not waiting 6 hours. I don't have time to wait 6 hours. And if I want it hot, I want it early. I'm not doing that. So I had it yesterday for the first time in Winnipeg.
Beautiful time.
And I didn't get it hot, but those still just the regular glazed are really good. Yeah. The other flavors, it's like, support local. Like go somewhere else. Like Donuts is incredible. Grand Donuts is incredible. Like it's like, I feel like if you're getting like a regular glazed donut from there and there's a line that's not more than 10 to 15 minutes, go ahead, because those are nice. They literally melt in your mouth. But or else it's like they're those regular donuts, like just go support local and you'll enjoy them, and they're more creative and they're just good. Yeah, I think Grand Donuts also just has a really good, if you've ever been, just a classic donut, just done well. And I would just be like, just go there, get a good donut. Don't, if you're waiting 2 hours, that's baffling. Like, that's baffling to me. Yeah, there's no way.
For 12 donuts.
There's no way.
So the middle school Tonia to where you are now, reflecting back on all your journey, all the culture, everything that you've learned about yourself, what would you say in that moment when you were, getting bullied about the horse meat?
Oh my gosh.
What would you say to your younger self?
I don't even know. Like it was a different time. Like I would, like if I showed myself, like my future self when I was like that little, it wouldn't make any sense to me. Like, just keep being you and everything's gonna be okay. Like, it's so funny because like, eat that horse meat. Yeah, and actually, you know what you should do? Go home and get more. And just eat it in front of that girl's face. Yeah. Like, and that's all, because like, it's 360. Like, and right now, like, people want, like, if you come to my mom's house, I'm so proud. I was like, this is my mom's cooking. Like, this is, like, what I get to eat. Like, I'm spoiled rotten because I get this food. Like, my Christmases have, like, 100 people of all my family in my parents' house. And we have, like, my mom makes, like, a 7-course meal. We'll have, like, the antipasto with the meats and the cheeses. And then we'll have the pasta starter, the appetizer table that fills you up before you've even started the meal. And your whole family screaming so loud that you just got to plug your ears. But it's great because it's hilarious. And that is, like, that feeling that, wow, you're so lucky, like, to have this. Like, you're so lucky to have a family. You're so lucky to have this culture, all these people around you, these friends and family, this food blog on the side, a career that's really fulfilling. Like, and I'm spoiled right now, and I'm always scared too. I remember I was thinking, it's too good. Like, it's too good. Like, what's gonna happen? Like, and it's funny too, but then I talk to myself, it's like it's really when those like pivotal moments in life happen, when you're like, oh, everything's going wrong, is when you made that switch and everything 360'd and went into the right direction. Because, before I was in a career which was really difficult and it was taking up a lot of my time, and it's like, Tonia, it's okay, like, you're working really hard, this is like great experience, no one at your age can take on this amount of responsibility. And I felt so defeated. I couldn't do my food blog, I couldn't do anything. I was working 7 days, like 6 days a week, 12-hour days. I was exhausted. I remember just being so tired, but again, I pushed myself to do it good. I'm doing it good, but I just remember, like, Tonia, it's okay to say you can't, like, it's okay to stop, like, it's okay to try and make a switch. And I switched career paths, and I remember thinking, like, it's a huge change, like, to switch career paths. and sorry, not career paths, but I switched jobs. And that was at the time the best decision I made. That's when my food page started getting more followers. I had time. I felt fulfilled with my new career, but I also could balance my old one.
Yeah.
And I, was just happy. Yeah. And I ended up actually the job was higher and better pay, and it doesn't necessarily mean if it's better pay that it's going to be like, better work, you enjoy it, but it worked out for me. And I think, those like moments of like uncertainty are really the ones that kind of can shift your trajectory in life.
Mm-hmm. What does the future look like for Tonia?
Yeah.
Prairie spoon, mountain spoon.
Yeah, I mean, I hope good. I am having some changes going on in my career possibly, and it's exciting, definitely nerve-wracking, but I think again, like, change is good. Like, regardless, you never know what's going to happen. Like, you could say, you can make the change and it could be something you dislike, or it's maybe not what you expected, but that's okay. Then you could change again. Like, that's the beauty of it. If you really want it, you could prioritize it. And I've kind of been able to show that. Been like, from my past, it's like everything always will turn out okay if you are, putting your all into things and you're kind to people and you're passionate about what you do, and it just it will work out. So I think the scariest thing, unknown, is always scary. It's like, okay, I'm confident with what I do now. I'm confident with Prairie Spoon and like making a switch. Okay, there's uncertainty. I'm not as confident anymore. It's like you're going from like everything's really, really stable to, okay, now we have some changes, and that's nerve-wracking. But I think without changes, you're not going to have growth, right? So,
yeah. Tonia, if you were to walk away from this podcast, if there's anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to touch on?
Not really. I think it was, I don't really think I've ever talked that in depth with people I just met like an hour ago.
Welcome to a podcast.
Welcome to Two Fries.
Yeah, but it was great. And I hope, like, I think, what I tell people is if they want to start, content creation or podcasting, and everyone says this, I remember listening to like podcasts, it's like, just do it, like, just start, like, and that's the hardest part though. It is. It's 100%. Starting. Like, you don't know what you're doing. Your reels and if you're making posts or reels, they end up turning like,
all trash.
They all look horrible. But then they kind of get better every single time. And it takes you so long to start because it takes so much longer to understand what you're doing. And that's fine. It's a learning experience. And some people can start faster. Some people have more time to put into it. And that's great. And some people have, a slower trajectory. Maybe they're prioritizing other things. They don't have time. And it's a side project. And everyone's different. It's their own path. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you shouldn't base your success you're feeling on your number of followers. To be honest, now more than ever, followers don't make a difference at all. Like, it really is like, if you have people finding value in your content and you're gonna get a lot of engagement, that's so much more valuable than followers. Like, you have people who started not podcasting, but like content creation like years ago, and they have like 30,000 followers or 50,000 followers, and you look at their videos and they're getting like 1,000 or 100 views because and maybe like that's what they enjoy, and that's great and that's good for you. But like also maybe it's that like they aren't really trying to find value for people as much. And Instagram, you have to kind of switch your trajectory, right? Like, Instagram started as like people were just posting pictures of themselves, and then you could blow up just by like posting a picture. And now it's like people follow people who give them value. And even me, like, I find it challenging to sometimes provide value. It takes time and it's hard. But I think it's really like, hey, if you want to grow pretty quickly, you have to focus on, helping other people, and it's not really about you. Instagram can't be selfish, and that's the reason why I do it. I don't want it to be selfish. And like a little bit, sure, I like to show about like maybe my life, and some things are for me, and like whatever. I don't care if it gets views, and like I just post it because I want to post it, and that's you could do that too. But if you do want to, grow and get engagement, and maybe have like some brand partnerships, and if that's your goal, like engagement and providing value is really important.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Is there any advice you have for the audience? chasing their dreams? Or?
I mean, just if you're passionate about something, you should give it your all as much as you can in that time, but don't let your thoughts or your what people are going to think of you to stop you. And it's hard saying that because everyone does that. Like at least I do that. Like even now it's so easy to say don't let what people think of you stop you. And like as humans we think of what other people think of us. Like it's just what natural. We do. But it gets easier the more you post. I already posted 1 million things of my face on it. People have already made fun of me. I don't like that feeling starts to go away, but when you start it's a little bit more scary, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Tonia, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your journey with us. If you need a food place, you know the page to check out. And until next time, peace.
It's a wrap.
Alrighty.